Futebol, nogomet, voetbal, jacobalo, football, or what we know as soccer, is played all around the world. Since its birth, the game has spread to every corner of the globe. There is a lot of debate regarding the inception of soccer. Some claim that the Chinese invented a sort of soccer game in 200 BC, while others say an ancient game in the Americas represented soccer first. But in 1862, when a man named Cobb Morley formed a soccer club in London, he is suggesting creating a governing body for soccer. The founding members of several clubs met in a tavern and set the scenes for the future of soccer. The Brits are still passionate today about their football, as you can see in this 1999 semi-final of the FA Cup.
Past Dixon, and it scored a sensational goal! What a moment for Ryan Giggs!
So, soccer has grown from the many variations of the game played in ancient times to what is now played today, enjoyed by so many people. But let's be honest, who cares? This is Rocinha, Rio de Janeiro's largest favela. A favela is a shanty town in Brazil usually found within urban areas. These slums are commonly known to be filled with poverty, disease, crime, and unemployment, but if you take a step inside the borders, you will find a strong sense of community, a love of family and friends, and a passion for futebol. Today, there are hundreds of favelas all around Brazil, which raises the question, how did they get there? In the 18th century, as the Atlantic slave trade slowed to a stop, African slaves would escape plantations or win their freedom and form settlements known as barrios africanos, or African neighborhoods. Over the years, as more and more slaves won their freedom, more and more people with African blood would move into the neighborhoods. During the 1970s, there was a rural exodus within the country, prompting millions to leave their rural homes to head towards the cities in hopes of finding work. Without finding homes to move into, many Brazilians ended up moving into favelas. Today, more than 11 million Brazilians live in favelas. If modern-day soccer was formed in London, then how come the game is loved and cherished more in Brazil than any other place in the world? How did the game even reach the shores of Sao Paulo? The answer lies in the Industrial Revolution. With the introduction of steam engines came the introduction of soccer games played between British sailors. During rest time on the loading docks in Brazil, Brits would kick around the ball, and local Brazilians quickly picked up on the sport. But who knew they would go to love it so much that their players would dominate the national scene for generations? To be born in a favela is to be born with little hope. Imagine living in a place where disease and unemployment are more prevalent than Starbucks and Subways, where you wake up hungry, go to school hungry, and go to bed hungry. It seems that those who live in a favela should be sad, but in fact, the majority of those who live in favelas are much happier than you think. They are happy simply to be alive, and of course, happy to be playing soccer. To many, soccer is the only thing keeping youth out of the streets in favelas.
Futebol é muito bom pra gente, a gente joga direitinho.
Não estamos atuando nos morros, não estamos usando droga que a gente já não usa, não estamos fazendo nenhuma besteira.
Like the three boys said, soccer is an escape from the poverty and danger that exists in favelas. The temptation to waste a life on drug trafficking, sex trafficking, or theft burns hot in favelas, but the undying love for soccer burns even hotter. While some people stay in a favela for their entire lives, those who stick with soccer have a way out. The classic example is Edinson Pelé, a young boy born in a Sao Paulo slum who was found by a local club, Santos, at the age of 14, and at the age of 17 he was leading Brazil to their first World Cup. He's not the only soccer player who grew up in a favela either. The 1962 champions were filled with former favela dwellers, such as Garincha, Didi, and Mauro. This 1970 goal in the World Cup final, widely considered to be the greatest team goal of all time, was scored by Carlos Alberto, also born in a favela. The four players who contributed in the build-up all came from favelas as well. Watch as Pelé gathers the ball at the top of the box and doesn't even look as he passes his ball to his teammate. No look. Hello. And although it was a drab affair, the 1994 World Cup final was won on penalties, Brazil's 4th World Cup, and not their last. Roberto Carlos, left wingback of the World Cup winning side of 2002, also came from a favela. The list is endless. You can see the motivation for young Brazilians who live in favelas. Poverty exists not just in favelas, but in slums in India, townships in South Africa, ghettos in Turkey. Poverty exists everywhere. Brazilians living in favelas can find a way to avoid the problems that face them by dedicating themselves to their love of futebol. There is a reason that soccer has reached every corner of the world. Brazilians are not the only ones who see it that way. Anywhere you go outside of the USA, you will find soccer being played, whether it is in the streets, on the beach, or in a park. Brazilians have dedicated themselves to the game for over a century, and they have been rewarded with 5 World Cup wins, as well as the honor of hosting the 2014 World Cup. I'm going to be there. Are you?
Sergio, play your piano. Sergio, play yo, 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 yo.